Hi, welcome to this information session on credit and admissions at Charles Sturt University for what's called the IT Masters group of courses. Start with some introductions. My name's Martin Hale. I'm the not so handsome one on the left there. I'm CEO of IT Masters Proprietary Limited, and I'm also an adjunct senior lecturer at Charles Sturt University. The one in the middle in the picture is interesting in terms of credit because that's Scott Anderson, the infamous Scott Anderson. These days he's pretty senior at Cisco, but he completed his Masters 13 years ago and he obtained the maximum amount of credit, and he was the first person to complete these group of Masters, the IT Masters, with Charles Sturt University. He completed it that quickly because he received 6 out of 12 subjects of credit. That's the maximum amount of credit you can get. And he received that level of credit because he had a whole swag of industry certification, including the probably the most sought after of all, which is the Cisco CCIE certification. And just a matter of interest, the person on the far right there is Dr. Irfan Altas. He's the head of school at Computing and Maths. He gets to wear that lovely hat because he is a doctor. And by the way, Scott has just started his Doctor of IT, so who knows, we may have a photo of him in the future with a lovely hat on as well. But that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about credit at Charles Sturt University. And there's been some changes here, and that's why we've re-recorded this short info session. Previously, and still is, you can get credit in 3 ways now. Used to be 2 ways, and now it's 3. The first way, and what makes these group of courses different with Charles Sturt University, and why we call them the IT Masters course, is that the level of recognition of industry certifications. And as you saw with the example with Scott, we certainly do recognise industry certifications, the major ones from Cisco, Microsoft, VMware, the Project Management Institute. There's a whole range of them, and all the mainstream ones are recognised, and they get various levels of credit depending on their complexity. They're all assessed, regularly assessed, and a level of credit is awarded for them. So if you're sitting out there and you've got some industry certifications, or maybe you're thinking about getting some, they'll probably be recognised, and I'll show you how to find that out a bit later in the presentation. So again, that's what makes these unique. I'm not aware of any other university that gives a level of recognition for industry certification, and we also make it relatively painless in terms of you just show us that you're certified, and we'll guarantee you'll get the credit. The second way is fairly common at universities. You will get credit for previous academic studies at the same level. What we mean by that, if you've done what's called postgraduate or master degree level study at another university, and there's a subject or 2 or more that look equivalent to a master's that you want to do at Charles Sturt University, what you do is you send the details to the uni of what you covered, and providing there's a good match there, they will award you credit. So if you've done cybersecurity blah 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 as part of a postgraduate at another uni, and it looks close to one of the subjects at Charles Sturt University that that's in a master's you want to study, we would award you credit, and I can assure you we do it fairly quickly and reasonably plainly. You'd need to provide the documentation. And the third way is the new way, and we're pretty excited about this because it's I'm not aware of anyone else doing this either, is you can actually now gain credit for completing IT Masters short courses. Now, short courses about 4 to 5 weeks in duration. IT Masters runs them in conjunction with Charles Sturt University, and their main purpose is to give prospective students a taster of what it's like to study at Charles Sturt University. And we do that by getting students they're free. They can just come along and do 4 or 5 weeks as much as possible, which is like one of our existing subjects. As I said, the exciting part about that is now you can actually get credit for completing those. And when I say completing, you have to complete these 4 or 5 weeks of study, and then there's a final assessment, and you need to pass that assessment. And if you do those on 3 of the courses, you'd be up for a credit, one of the subjects at Charles Sturt University. What I suggest, if you're interested in that, just go up onto the IT Masters website, itmasters.edu.au, and register for the next short course, and you'll get the feel for how that all works. But again, you need to do 3 of them. It's not just one, you need to do 3, and you do need to complete them. It's not a matter of enrolling in them, you must complete the assessment. And the maximum total credit from those 3 combined areas, 50% of the Masters. So there's 12 subjects in the Masters, normally done over about 2.5 years part-time. You can get a maximum of 50%, as Scott did, and he got the maximum credit, so he only had 6 subjects to complete. Hence he completed the Masters in a year, and he was the first graduate we had from these programs. You're interested in credit, or even finding out if you've got any credit, first thing I suggest you do is go up on the IT Masters website and complete the Am I Eligible web form. Take it 5-10 minutes. We're not asking for proof of anything at this stage. All we're asking for you is to document what you've got, what you've done, and we'll come back to you with details of what credit that would be. So if you say, for instance, list some industry certifications that you've done, or even thinking of doing, if you want to find out what credit you might be would be available and what does qualify for credit. If you, again, the short courses, or you've done previous study with anyone, put that in there, or even stuff that you're thinking of doing. Again, let's find out before you start. Usual way is, in the past, was you started and then you applied for credit. Well, that's a bit harsh, because then you're not really sure what you're going to get for credit. So what we aim to do with this is to get that out of the way, and let's find out what initial credit that you think for available for. So I strongly suggest just go ahead and do that. Again, even if you just want to find out what you might get credit for the future, if you're thinking of studying something. So just I suggest strongly, and we always do this, is get your credit confirmed before you start. But additional credit can be claimed at any time right up to graduation. People are not aware of this, but we have got a number of students now who are studying, say, an industry certification. They're doing in parallel with their Masters. They're going to complete that and claim the credit right up to graduation. I mean, just take an example where that is a VMware VCP subject that we've got. You can do that as a subject and then go on and complete the subject, or you might want to go off and do a course somewhere and then complete the certification and claim credit for it. So just to follow on from that, obviously, is firstly you find out what credit, but it'd be a good idea to find out whether you're going to be admitted into the Masters as well. So we have 2 options for getting in. Firstly, you can have an undergraduate or bachelor's degree. That's the normal way that you normally would get into a master's degree. Or we have a work experience pathway. And as you see, that's a pretty painless way of doing it. Again, though, to do that and just to find that, it's a double purpose form, I suppose you'd call it, is that form we just talked about before, Am I Eligible? You fill it out. Not only will it then come back and confirm credit, but it'll also confirm about either you can get via a bachelor's degree if you got one, or whether your work experience would allow you to do the Masters. Let's just have a look at this industry experience pathway, and I particularly talk about this because just over half of our students come in via this, including Scott Anderson that we just talked about before. So yes, it's not uncommon, and a lot of the prize winners, we have prize winners for the top performing students each year, has actually come via this method. So it certainly doesn't mean if you haven't completed your bachelor's that you're not going to do well in the Masters. The way we have this, the pathway we've got is you do what's called a graduate certificate, which is a third of a Masters, followed then by your Masters degree. And it's actually almost a bit too good to be true, this, because the way that's structured is you do your graduate certificate and then flow into your Masters, but you get credit for the subjects you've already done. So the graduate certificate's 4 subjects, and then you, at the end of that, you say, you might want to leave and I'll just take my graduate certificate. That's fine, come back later on, we hope. But a lot of people just then say, now I want to transfer into my Masters with full credit for the 4 subjects I've already done. That then only leaves you with 8 more subjects to do to complete your Masters degree. Or if you've got credit, it would be, a minimum of 6 subjects. You might only have to do 2 subjects to do your graduate certificate, and then do another 4 to complete your master's degree. If you're doing the full 12, the recommended duration for working full-time professionals, by the way, all of our just over 1,000 students are all working full-time professionals, and not we don't have any full-time students. That's what these courses have been designed for. So they're all working full-time and then grappling with their study at night. The recommended duration for you is 2 years part-time. Realistically, people take a bit longer than that. We've got them all over the Scott taking a year, and we've had people, you can take up to 4 years without any problems, and even more than that if you've got good excuses. And the way you do that is, and most people do it at one time or another, just take leave on the way through. You say, oh, it's all getting a bit much for me here. I need to take a break. Well, we won't put you through. Go just email us and just tell us, and make sure you do that before what's it called, census date, which is 4 weeks into a subject. Then you can pull out, or preferably just don't start the subject and say, I need to take a whole session off here and just catch up with a few things at work or at home, and then I'll be back after that session. So that is absolutely the norm. People do that at different times, and again, you've got up to 4 years to part. There's actually an advantage of doing it this way. Doing the graduate certificate and masters is a financial advantage, and because after you complete your graduate certificate, you become an alumni with Charles Sturt University, and as per down the bottom here, alumni qualify for 10% discount. So you would get on the rest of your subjects, you'll get a discount on the way through. So what's the bad part about it? Well, there isn't any. I can't see any. You're getting a discount. You're not doing any more work. You're getting 2 qualifications. I can't see a downside to it. In fact, it's probably a sensible way to do it anyway. If you're not sure how that all works, and that just apply, and what they'll do is come back for one of the masters that you're interested in doing. They'll come back and say, by you coming through the pathway, here's the graduate certificate, and here's what we suggest, what subjects you should start with. So again, no extra study, 2 qualifications on your resume, and the first qualification should be in only 8 months, because it's only 4 subjects, or even less than that if you get credit. So you should be able to complete that very quickly, which is a nice thing to have on your belt fairly early on. And you get your alumni discount for your final 8 subjects. Again, it's almost a bit embarrassing, but there's no downsides to it. So yeah, it's I'd definitely have a look at that. So if you've got any questions, well, 3 options. Just email inquiries at IT Masters. Sorry, that should be .edu.au. That's the old one there. So .edu.au. You can call us. No one ever does, but we get an occasional phone call. We get phone calls from current students every now and again, but we don't get many from prospective. Everything's done online these days. Or just complete that form. Am I eligible? That'll get you started. And when we come back to you with your credit and whether you're eligible or not, we will then, you can email back and say, look, I've got a few questions, blah, 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 or can I have a talk to someone. It's a good way to get started. I promise you, we're not going to spam you or anything. We just come back and tell you what you're eligible for in terms of credit, and what your pathway into the Masters would be. So thanks for listening. Good luck with, we hope to see you as a student, but even if you're not, good luck with your further studies, and hope to hear from you in the future. Thanks very much.